This video is about adding rational expressions. Just remember, rational expressions are fractions, and when we add fractions together, we need to make sure that we have the same denominator. In our first example, 3 over 12x plus 4 over 12x, our denominators are the same. When we add fractions and the denominators are the same, we add the numerators together and put that above the common denominator that we have, or the denominator that's the same. So in this example, we would have 3 plus 4, and that's going to be over our common denominator of 12x. 3 plus 4 is 7, and our final answer is 7 divided by 12x. You always want to simplify your answers as well. We can't simplify 7 over 12x any more than it already is, and so we're done with that example. Example B, 7y squared over y minus 1 plus negative 7y over y minus 1. Again, these both have the same denominators already, and so we would just add the numerators together. 7y squared, and then we're adding a negative 7y, and adding a negative is the same as subtracting. So that would be minus 7y in the numerator, and it's over our common denominator of y minus 1. We always want to make sure that our answer is in simplest form, and we can factor this numerator. We can factor out a 7y. When we factor out the 7y, what we'll have left in the parentheses is y minus 1, and this is divided by y minus 1, and we can cancel these y minus 1's, and the final answer then will be 7y. M squared minus 7m over m minus 3 plus 12 over m minus 3. Again, our denominators are the same, and maybe you'd want to pause the video and give this one a try and see if you can do it first without watching and then watch me do it later. Because the denominators are the same, we just add the numerators together. M squared minus 7m plus 12. And that would be over our common denominator, which is m minus 3. Now we want to simplify this if we can, so we'll need to factor our numerator, m squared minus 7m plus 12. We want to factor the 12 so that the sum gives us negative 7. The two numbers that multiply to give you positive 12 and add to give you negative 7 are negative 3 and negative 4. So this will factor as m minus 3 times m minus 4. And this is over m minus 3. So the m minus 3's will cancel, and we'll be left with m minus 4. Example D, negative 8x plus 3 over x plus negative 8x plus 2 over 5x. This one, the denominators are different, so we'll need to find the least common denominator, or the LCD. And the LCD for this one is going to be this 5x. So what I would need to do to the first fraction to get the 5x in the denominator is multiply by 5. So we're going to multiply the numerator of our fraction by 5. And also the denominator by 5. We already have the lowest common denominator in the second fraction, so we don't need to do anything to it. Now we need to add these two together. Now that we have our denominators the same, we would add the numerators. So 5 times the quantity negative 8x plus 3. And adding a negative is the same as subtraction, so minus 8x and then plus 2. And this is all over our common denominator, 5x. Now we need to distribute this 5. And 5 times negative 8 is negative 40. And 5 times 3 is plus 15. So we have negative 40x plus 15, and then minus 8x plus 2. This is all being divided by 5x. We have negative 40x and negative 8x, so that's negative 48x. And then 15 plus 2 is plus 17. That's being divided by 5x. You can't factor the numerator at all because 17 is prime, and so this is our final answer. Example E, 6x over x plus 6 plus 3 over x minus 6. So these denominators look similar, but they're really different because this first one is x plus 6 and the second one is x minus 6. Again, because our denominators are different, we need the LCD. And for this one, because these don't have anything in common, remember, having this x the same is nothing in common because of the addition and subtraction. So we need to multiply those together for our LCD, x plus 6 times x minus 6. Now I want to find the least common denominator for these two fractions, or I want to get that in these fractions. And so in the first fraction I just have the x plus 6, so we're going to need to multiply that by the x minus 6. Do that to both the numerator and the denominator. And then plus, this one just has the x minus 6, so we're going to multiply it by x plus 6. Now both of our denominators are the same, and we can add the numerators together. And I'm also going to write this 6x out in front. So it's 6x times the quantity x minus 6 plus 3 times the quantity x plus 6. This is all over our common denominator of x plus 6 times x minus 6. Now we can distribute the 6x and the 3. Doing that will give us 6x squared minus 36x plus 3x plus 18. And this is over our common denominator, x plus 6 times x minus 6. Combining our like terms, we have 6x squared minus 33x plus 18, and this is over x plus 6 times x minus 6. So what we did there was combine the negative 36x and the 3x. That gave us the negative 33x. We want to try to factor our numerator to see if we can cancel anything that's in our denominator. And there's one thing that I see that I can factor right away, and that's to factor a 3 out of the numerator. That would give us 3 times the quantity 2x squared minus 11x plus 6, and this would be all over x plus 6 and x minus 6. We always want to see if we can cancel anything, so I want to see if I can factor this 2x squared minus 11x plus 6 further. The way that we would do that is take the number in front of the x squared, which is 2, and multiply that to the number that's a plain old number without a variable part on it at all, which is 6. That gives me a positive 12. And I want to know, can I factor this positive 12 so that it sums to give me my middle term, which is negative 11. And the ways for us to factor positive 12 are 1 and 1, and 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. And we want a positive 12, so we would have to have the same sign in all of those. So it was 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. And these factors would both have to have the same sign in order for us to multiply them and get a positive 12. And when we add these together, there's no way for us to come up with 11. So this will not factor any further. Example F, 7 over 6 minus m plus 2 over m minus 6. These are very similar, the denominators are, but they're a little bit different because this one is 6 minus m and this one is m minus 6. And remember, it does matter what order we subtract things in. Addition, it doesn't matter order, but subtraction, it does. And we also have talked about how to make our subtraction reverse directions. So we could reverse this so that it would be m minus 6 by factoring out a -1, because what happens then is this 6 becomes -6 and the negative m becomes positive m. And so we would have -1 times the quantity. This then we could write in the other order, and so positive m would just be m, and -6 would be -6. So now we would have the same denominators. And also remember, with fractions, we can write a negative fraction in 3 ways: the negative sign out front, the negative sign on top, or the negative sign down on the bottom. So right now we have the negative sign down on the bottom, but we can move it up to the top. So this is really the same as -7 over m minus 6 plus 2 over m minus 6. And now we have the same denominators, and we can add the numerators together. -7 plus 2 over m minus 6. That gives us 5 over m minus 6. -5, rather. Another example here, we have g is m minus 5 over m squared plus 9m plus 20, and 4m minus 1 over m squared plus 7m plus 10. So we need to factor both of these denominators so that we can find our LCD. M squared plus 9m plus 20 factors as m plus 4 times m plus 5. And m squared plus 7m plus 10 factors as m plus 2 times m plus 5. To write the least common denominator, what I do is just write down the first denominator, so that's m plus 4 times m plus 5. And then you add to that anything from the second denominator that's not already there. We already have the m plus 5, so we don't need to repeat it. We just need to add the missing thing, which is the m plus 2. So now we want to write this over our common denominator, which is m plus 4 times m plus 5 times m plus 2. The first denominator, remember, came from this m plus 4, m plus 5, and what's missing from that is the m plus 2. So I need to multiply this top by m plus 2, and then plus 4m minus 1. And this denominator came from here, m plus 2, m plus 5, and so that one is missing the m plus 4. Now we need to simplify this numerator, so we're going to need to do FOIL twice, once for these two and once for these two here. M times m is m squared. M times 2 is 2m. -5 times m is -5m. And -5 times 2 is -10. Now do FOIL over here. 4m times m is 4m squared. And 4m times 4 is plus 16m. -1 times m is -m. And -1 times 4 is -4. All of this then goes over our common denominator, m plus 4 times m plus 5 times m plus 2. Now we want to combine all of our like terms. We have m squared and 4m squared. So I usually put a dot over them or cross them off or something to indicate to myself that I've used them. So we have m squared and 4m squared, so that's 5m squared. And then we'll combine our m's. We have 2m and -5m, that's -3m. And -3m and 16m is 13m, and 13m minus m is 12m. Then do the constants. We have -10 and -4. That gives us -14. This is all over our common denominator, m plus 4, m plus 5, and m plus 2. We don't have a common factor we can factor out of the numerator, but we should check to see if this can factor. So again, we're going to take our constant 5, our leading coefficient 5, and we're going to multiply that to our constant, which is negative 14. That gives us negative 70. And so we want to know, can we factor negative 70 so when I add the factors together, I get the middle term, which is 12. And 70 factors is 1 and 70, 2 and 35, 5 and 14, 7 and 10, and that looks like all of them. And this is a negative 70, so we really are looking for the difference of these two because we need one of them to be positive and one of them to be negative. But the difference of 1 and 70 is 69, 2 and 35 is 33, 5 and 14 is 9, and 7 and 10 is 3. So there's no way for us to make up this 12 that we need, and so this will not factor anymore, and you can just leave your answer right in that form there. Rational expressions. Let me know if you have any questions or post them to the discussion board. Thank you.